melody where the music's always bright. From history to theory, we'll keep your spirits light. Tune in for the stories, the rhythms and the groove. Join us on this journey, there's always more to prove. The melody, where every note's a thrill. The melody, welcome to the Melody Podcast with your favorite host, James Shelton. James Shelton. James Shelton. James Shelton.
Welcome to the Melody Podcast. I'm your host, James Shelton. In a career that spanned almost 50 years of his life, Michael Jackson became a mainstream on the Billboard charts. It was his dominance on the weekly Billboard Hot 100 that entered him into the record books. As a solo artist, 13 of his singles went to number 1, the most by a male artist, and also an additional 4 songs by the Jackson 5 also topped the charts. He first saw success as part of the family band the Jackson 5, who notched massive hits for Motown right off the bat. Michael was earning solo hits even before parting ways with the group. Michael Joseph Jackson was born on August 29, 1958 in Gary, Indiana. He was the 8th of 10 children born to Joseph Jackson, a crane operator, and Catherine Jackson, a homemaker, and a devoted Jehovah's Witness. Both of Jackson's parents previously had musical aspirations themselves. Kathleen played clarinet and piano and had aspired to be a country singer, while Joseph was a guitarist who performed in local R&B bands. They encouraged their children to pursue musical ambitions, and Jackson's career in music began at the age of 5 under his father's encouragement. Almost all of Jackson's siblings made marks in music industry, including Rebby, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Latoya, Marlon, Randy, and Janet Jackson. His brother Brandon, Marlon's twin, died shortly after birth. Joseph pushed his children hard to succeed, making them rehearse 5 hours a day after school, and was reportedly known to become violent with them. He was said to beat them with a belt buckle or electric kettle cord and ordered them to break a branch off the tree if they got a dance step wrong, so he could hit them with it. Joseph molded his sons into the musical group in the early 1960s that would later become known as the Jackson 5. At first, the Jackson's family group consisted of Jackson's older brothers Tito, Jermaine, and Jackie. Jackson joined his siblings when he was 5 years old and emerged as the group's lead vocalist. He showed remarkable range and depth for such a young performer, impressing audiences with his ability to convey complex emotions. They officially became the Jackson 5 when older brother Marlon joined the group. Jackson and his brother spent endless hours rehearsing and polishing their act. At first, the Jackson 5 played local gigs and built a strong following. They recorded one single on their own, Big Boy, with the B-side, You've Changed, but the record failed to generate much interest. The group moved on to working as the opening act for R&B artists such as Gladys Knight and the Pips, James Brown, and Sam and Dave. Many of these performers were signed to the legendary Motown record label, and the Jackson 5 eventually caught the attention of Motown founder Berry Gordy. Impressed by the group, Gordy signed the group to his label in early 1969. Jackson and his brothers moved to Los Angeles, where they lived with Gordy and with Diana Ross of the Supremes as they got settled. The Jackson 5 made its first television appearance during the 1969 Miss Black American pageant, performing a cover of It's Your Thing, their first album, Diana Ross Presents the Jackson 5. It hit the charts in December of 1969 with the single I Want You Back reaching number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart shortly afterward. More chart-topping singles quickly followed, such as ABC, The Love You Save, and I'll Be There. For several years, Jackson and the Jackson 5 maintained a busy tour and recording schedule. under the supervision of Gordy and his Motown staff. The group became so popular that it even had its own self-titled cartoon show, which ran from 1971 to 1972. Jackson also popularized the robot dance after using the move during the 1973 performance of the song Dancing Machine on The Mike Douglas Show. Despite the group's great success, there was trouble brewing behind the scenes. Tensions mounted between Gordy and Joseph over the management of his children's careers, with the Jacksons wanting more creative control over their material. The group officially severed ties with Motown in 1976, though Jermaine remained with the label to pursue his own solo career. Now calling themselves the Jacksons, the group signed a new record deal with Epic Records. By the release of its third album for the label, Destiny in 1978, the brothers had emerged as talented songwriters. Jackson began his solo career while simultaneously performing with the Jackson 5. He released his debut single album at age 13 with Got to Be There 1971. Making the charts with the title track, he had his first solo #1 single with the title track from his sophomore album Ben in 1972, which he recorded for the 1972 film of the same name about a killer rat. Jackson followed these albums with Music and Me in 1973 and Forever Michael in 1975, the latter of which was his last album with Motown Records. As Jackson's stardom rose, he tried his hand at acting, and the experience left its mark on his music too. Jackson portrayed the Scarecrow in the Sidney Lumet-directed film The Wiz in 1977, starring alongside Diana Ross and Nipsey Russell. While living in New York City to make the film, Jackson frequently visited the Studio 54 nightclub and was exposed to early hip-hop music, which contributed to his beatboxing in future songs like Working Night and Day. Jackson achieved his solo career breakthrough with Off the Wall in 1979, his first album with Epic Records, and his first produced by Quincy Jones, whom he met while working on The Wiz. An infectious blend of hip-hop and funk, Off the Wall featured the Grammy Award-winning single Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, along with such hits as Rock You, She's Out of My Life, and the title track. Critics felt the album moved Jackson from the pop music of his youth into a more complex sound, and some have called it one of the best pop albums ever made. Jackson was still performing with his brothers at this time, and the overwhelmingly positive response to Off the Wall helped the Jacksons as a group. Their album Trumpet 1980 sold more than 1 million copies, and the brothers went on an extensive tour to support this recording. At the same time, Jackson continued exploring more ways to branch out on his own. In 1983, Jackson embarked on his final tour with his brothers to support the album Victory in 1984. Jackson's duet with Mick Jagger, called The State of Shock, was the most successful single off the album. Jackson achieved unparalleled success with the release of his sixth solo album, Thriller, in 1982, which, as of August 2021, was still recognized by Guinness World Records as the best-selling album of all time, having sold 60 million copies worldwide and 34 million units in the United States alone. The album stayed on the charts for 80 weeks after its release, holding the #1 spot for 37 weeks, and generated 7 top 10 hits, including Thriller, Billie Jean, Beat It, Human Nature, Wanna Be Starting Something, and PYT, Pretty Young Thing. The album garnered 12 Grammy Award nominations and notched 8 wins, both records at the time. Jackson also filmed an elaborate music video for the album's title track. Directed by filmmaker John Landis, the 14-minute Thriller mini-movie features a horror plot that culminates with Jackson's dancing with dozens of zombies in an abandoned city street. Following its debut on MTV on December 2nd, 1983, it was hailed as one of the greatest music videos of all time and became the first music video to be selected for the National Film Registry in 2009. On a 1983 television special honoring Motown, Jackson performed his number one hit Billie Jean and debuted the moonwalk, which became one of his signature moves. The dance step, which R&B musician Jeffrey Daniel had taught him 3 years earlier, involves the dancer gliding backwards despite bodily actions that suggest forward motion. The much lauded dance performance further boosted sales for the already successful Thriller album. The New York Times hailed Jackson as a musical phenomenon, writing, "In the world of pop music, there is Michael Jackson and there is everybody else." Jackson signed a record-breaking $5 million promotional deal with PepsiCo in November of 1983, launching the brand's youth-targeted New Generation campaign. However, Jackson ended up filing a lawsuit against Pepsi when, during filming of a simulated concert for the commercial, pyrotechnics accidentally set Jackson's hair on fire, resulting in second and third-degree burns on his scalp. Jackson had surgery to repair his injuries and is believed to have begun experimenting with plastic surgery around this time. His face, especially his nose, would become dramatically altered in the coming years. In 1985, Jackson showed his altruistic side by working with Lionel Richie to co-write "We Are the World," a charity single for a non-profit organization for USA for Africa. A veritable who's who of music stars participated in the project, including Ray Charles, Bob Dylan, Willie Nelson, Bruce Springsteen, and Tina Turner. It became one of the top-selling singles of all time and raised, by some accounts, more than $75 million for humanitarian aid to fight poverty in Africa. 5 years after Thriller, Jackson released his highly anticipated follow-up album Bad in 1987. Although unable to duplicate the phenomenal sales of Thriller, Bad still reached the top of the charts and became the first album to feature 5 number one hits with "I Just Can't Stop Loving You," "Bad," "The Way You Make Me Feel," "Man in the Mirror," and "Dirty Diana." Filmmaker Martin Scorsese directed the title track's music video, which featured the unknown Wesley Snipes and involved an elaborate story about delinquent teenagers and gang violence. Jackson spent more than a year on the road playing concerts to promote the album. In 1988, Jackson bought 2,700 acres of property in Los Altos, California for $17 million and had it converted into Neverland Ranch, a home and private amusement park that he owned until 2005. Named after the fantasy island from the Peter Pan story. It included a zoo, train, Ferris wheel, and 50-seat movie theater. Several exotic pets who kept at the ranch, including Jackson's famous pet chimpanzee, Bubbles. Around the late 1980s, rumors began swirling that Jackson was lighting the color of his skin to appear more white and sleeping in a special oxygen chamber to increase his lifespan. In 1993, Jackson agreed to a rare television interview with Oprah Winfrey to quell rumors. He explained that the change in his skin tone was the result of a skin condition known as vertigo, and he opened up about the abuse he suffered from his father. In 1991, Jackson released his 8th solo album, Dangerous, his first without Quincy Jones in 16 years. The album marked a different direction for Jackson and mixed various genres including R&B, funk, gospel, hip-hop, rock, industrial, and classical. It included the hit single Black or White with an accompanying music video directed by Landis and featuring a cameo appearance by child star Macaulay Culkin. The final minutes of the video featured Jackson making sexual gestures and violently damaging cars and buildings, which drew criticism for some viewers. Jackson issued an apology and edited the video to remove these elements. Jackson's music continued to enjoy widespread popularity in following years. In 1993, he performed at several important events, including the halftime show of Super Bowl 27. However, 1993 also saw the first of several child child molestation allegations against Jackson. When a 13-year-old boy claimed that the music star had fondled him, Jackson was known to have sleepovers with boys at his Neverland Ranch. But this was the first public change of a wrongdoing. The police searched the ranch but said they found no evidence to support the claim. The following year, Jackson settled the case out of court with the boy's family. In the 2003 television documentary Living with Michael Jackson, British journalist Martin Bashir spent several months with the singer, even getting him to discuss his relationships with children. Jackson admitted that he continued to have children sleep over at his ranch even after the 1993 allegations, and that sometimes he slept with the children in his bed. "Why can't you share your bed? That's the most loving thing to do, to share your bed with someone," Jackson told Bashir. Jackson's musical career began to decline with the lukewarm reception of High Story, Past, Present, and Future, Book I, 1995. The two-disc album featured greatest hits compilation on Disc 1 and new material on Disc 2 that included collaborations with Janet Jackson, The Notorious Big, Shaquille O'Neal, and Slash. High Story was considered Jackson's most personal album, with lyrics pertaining to his child abuse allegations and anger of his treatment by the media. The record spawned two hits, You Are Not Alone and his duet with sister Janet, Scream. The spaceship-themed video for the latter song cost a record-setting $7 million to produce and earned a Grammy Award for its slick effects. Another track from the album, They Don't Care About Us, brought Jackson's intense criticism for using an anti-Semitic term. In 2001, Jackson released Invincible, his final studio album prior to his death. It cost $30 million to produce, making it the most expensive album ever made. The album touched upon such topics as isolation, social issues, and Jackson's continued obligations to the media. Despite debuting at number 1 on the Billboard charts, it received mixed reviews from critics. Invincible was released as Jackson was having legal issues with Sony over the rights to his master recordings, which escalated when Jackson called Sony Music Chairman Tommy Murata a racist who exploits black artists. By the turn of the century, Jackson was increasingly becoming known for his insanities, which included wearing a surgical mask in public in 2002. Jackson made headlines when he seemed confused and disoriented on stage at the MTV Video Music Awards in 2002. In 2002, he received enormous criticism for dangling his baby son blanket over a balcony while greeting fans in Berlin, Germany. In a later interview, Jackson explained that we were waiting for thousands of fans down below and they were chanting they wanted to see my child, so I was kind enough to let them see. I was doing something out of innocence. In 2003, Jackson encountered more legal woes when he was arrested on charges related to incidents with a 13-year-old boy. He faced 10 counts in total, including lewd conduct with a minor, conspiracy to commit child abduction, false imprisonment, and extortion. The resulting 2005 trial was a media circus with fans, dictators, and camera crews surrounding the courthouse. More than 130 people testified, and Jackson's accuser described via videotape how he'd been given wine and molested. However, the jury found problems with his testimony as well as that of his mother. Jackson was found not guilty of all charges on June 14, 2005. In August of 1994, Jackson announced that he had married Lisa Marie Presley, daughter of rock icon Elvis Presley. The union proved to be short-lived as they divorced in 1996. Some thought that the marriage was a publicity stunt to restore Jackson's image after child molestation allegations. Later in 1996, Jackson wed nurse Debbie Rowe. Jackson and Rowe had 2 children through artificial insemination. Son Michael Joseph Jackson Jr., born in 1997 and known as Prince Jackson, and daughter Paris Michael Catherine Jackson, born in 1998. When Rowe and Jackson divorced in 1999, Michael received full custody of their 2 children. Jackson would go on to have a third child, Prince Michael Jackson II, who went by Blanket and now Biggie with an I, with an unknown last name. Jackson died on June 25, 2009 at the age of 50 after suffering a cardiac arrest in his Los Angeles home. CPR attempts failed and he was rushed to the hospital where he died later that morning. In February 2010, an official coroner's report revealed Jackson's cause of death was acute propofol intoxication or a lethal overdose on prescription drug cocktail, including the sedatives. Oh boy, I can't see these names. Midazolam, diazepam, and lidocaine. Yeah, those three drugs. They got some funny names. Anyway, aided by his personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, Jackson had been taking sedative drugs to help him sleep at night. Murray told police that he believed Jackson had developed a particular addiction to propofol, which Jackson referred to as his milk. Murray reportedly administered the drug by IV in the evenings in a 50 milligram dosages, and was attempted to wean the pop star off the drug around the time of his death. A police investigation revealed that Murray was not licensed to prescribe most controlled drugs in the state of California. The steps he took to save Jackson also came under scrutiny, as evidence showed that the standard for care for administering propofol had not been met, and the recommended equipment for patient monitoring, precision dosing, and resuscitation was ruled as a homicide. Murray was convicted of involuntary manslaughter on November 7, 2011, receiving a 4-year maximum prison sentence. In 2013, the Jackson family launched a wrongful death lawsuit against AEG Live, the entertainment company that promoted Jackson's planned comeback series in 2009. They believed that the company had failed to effectively protect the singer while he was under Murray's care. Jackson's family lawyers sought up to $1.5 billion, an estimation of what Jackson could have earned to that point. But in October 2013, a jury determined that AEG wasn't responsible for the singer's death. On July 7, 2009, a television memorial was held for Jackson's fans at the Staples Center in downtown Los Angeles. While 17,500 free tickets were issued to fans via lottery, an estimated 1 billion viewers watched the memorial on television or online. Jackson's death resulted in an outpouring of public grief and sympathy. Memorials were erected around the world, including one at the arena where he was set to perform and another at his childhood home in Gary, Indiana. The Jackson family held a private funeral on September 3, 2009 at the Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, for immediate family members and 200 guests. Celebrity mourners, including Jackson's ex-wife, Lisa Marie Presley, and actor Elizabeth Taylor, attended the funeral. These are Michael Jackson's top 5 songs. So we got number 5, Rock With You, number 4, Beat It, number 3, I'll Be There, number 2, Billie Jean, and finally number 1, Say Say Say, with Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson. And you might be surprised to know that Thrill was not the number 1 song, despite being one of the best selling singles of all time. It's actually number 14 on the list that I found by Billboard. Crazy. ShopMelody.com is currently down while we transition to an app that will be directly on your Google Play and iOS stores. You'll be able to join the community to discuss music, buy merch, watch our videos, listen to the podcast, and be a part of the Melody family right from your phone. In the meantime, check us out on Facebook or any other social media, including Twitter or X, whatever you call it, at the Melody Pod. That's Melody with an I, at the Melody Pod. We'll be posting news and other information that goes along with the podcast until we get our website back up. You can listen to the podcast for free on YouTube and iHeartRadio. If you were listening on the website and you can't find a place to listen to and you don't want to pay a subscription to anybody, You can listen for free on YouTube and iHeartRadio. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.